But yeah, but yeah, last night after the work we did, I had first of all something smashed in my kitchen. I went looking and it was just like the handle that I put my paper towels on it. That thing just spontaneously fell down. And then there was like banging on my roof, which I always get. And when I went into the kitchen to see what crashed, I could feel a presence there. It's like I had to be like, "Excuse me, I need to see what's going on in my kitchen." I could feel his heavy presence right there. It's amazing.
Hmm. Did you get the sense that that was more interference from your own field or something in the environment or both?
I Well, both, because earlier that day I did a banishing because I just felt it come on me that I just it's like the last straw. I was just fed up with all the interference, and I just kind of I claimed it. I'm like I paid for this property. I manifested this property. It's mine. It may have been yours in a past life, but your life is over now. Go to the light and be done with it. And this then this morning I got the sort of like a feedback from it saying we are the principalities of this area. You don't know who you're dealing with.
Oh,
Yeah. And I've been having it on the back in the back of my mind. When I went to look for my property plot, there was like since 2004, there was like 16 owners of this property. And I'm thinking, well, there's probably good reason why people keep leaving here.
huh.
So I'm debating on whether, because it sure would be good practice, but at the same time, like I have to realize I got my limitations.
Okay. Um, there's a lot flooding in. Okay, so I think what we do, if you want to continue with that clearing, because I see us like setting up a frequency fence around where you're at, like whether that's the four corners of the lot, maybe it's the four corners of the lot and the four corners of the house and the four corners of the desk that you're sitting at. So
Mm,
we got multiple layers in a ring
yeah.
system. I can feel that resistance. Did you watch the Albar's latest video about the Ashtar command?
Yeah. Hmm.
They had some stubborn resistance against, kind of his uh negotiation, I guess we'll call it, which sounds familiar here, but I don't think they understand the powers that they're dealing with at the same time.
Well, it's like the monkey trap where you take a glass jar and you put a piece of fruit in the bottom of it, and the monkey sticks his hand in, go get the fruit, and he can't get his hand out, but he won't let go of the fruit.
Right.
Ashtar Command would not let go of that fruit.
And maybe they don't need to. Maybe we just make them take the jar somewhere else.
Well, the fruit being the soul shards that they had in their containment. So I think Alabar's he's like Ulysses S. Grant, unconditional surrender, which was pretty cool. You know, just unconditionally, no, you just let go and get out of here.
So let's call in that same strategy here and see what we get. Because what do they want? Do you get a sense for why they're holding on so tight?
Um, in Virginia, there's this mentality of it's still sense of ownership. The plantation owner and the slaves, there's a sense of ownership in the Old Dominion, and maybe that's why it's called the Old Dominion. And so there's some kind of spirit here that owns this place, has their minions, and they defend the territory. Because I've called in angelic protection and angelic interference and stuff, and I just feel like it's been limited. There's been a limited response in there.
So let's call in star families because this is much bigger than human slavery and human trafficking. This is also galactic.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just part of an exercise that facilitated for Gaia to reclaim her own divine dominion. And so I think she wants to help with the dominion piece.
Well, she's the authority.
That's right.
Do you get the image as far as Guy is concerned? It's sort of like the guy in he falls in the pool, he splashed around, he's yelling, help me, I'm drowning. And then somebody comes by and says, hey dude, stand up. And he's in like 4 feet of water and he stands up. And that's what
Do
Guy is
that.
doing right now. It's like, oh yeah,
Yeah, totally. She just needs an observer to come by and go, hey, by the way, you can do this.
yep.
Let me witness you doing this.
Well, and I think that's important. I think she needs witnesses
Yeah, totally.
that support.
I've been seeing her calling in like pillars of light in different places. And so it feels like with those rings that she can shine light through that. I don't know, like any more about the mechanics of either the rings themselves or like how colored light is coming through, I'm seeing colorful something just kind of
Mm.
waking up. It's almost like almost like she's saying thank you for doing your part of, commanding them to leave and giving them the instruction of going to the light. She's like, now I'm going to turn on the lights. Like almost like it was too forceful before. If they didn't have any direction, then, she doesn't want them to get lost.
Uh-huh.
No, no more lost or left behind. So it's like you had to give that command before she could just like turn on the spotlight because it's so bright.
Mm. Okay.
But I see little wisps of something kind of moving a little bit. So I don't know how big of a stronghold this is or how much kind of wants to come through. Oh, look at all these pillars I've got going on here. I didn't even realize.
Wow.
I love synchronicities.
Uh-huh.
So I'm just holding space for that pillar. And whenever I facilitate work like this, I like to call through across all of the lifetimes, timelines, spaces, dimensions, and realities. Because we know this is multidimensional work. We are not just in one place at one time. There's only one now. And
Hmm.
so calling that to come full circle, all timelines, lifetimes, spaces, dimensions, and realities. And the pillar kind of grows and strengthens as that comes full circle with itself, like closing a door behind it almost. Boy, they are like really stuck. Do you feel anything moving?
Not at the moment, no. Don't hear anything either. There might be some unmarked graves in the back in the woods.
It's kind of like rippling out. So maybe there's more going on than just your physical home. Maybe it's,
Hmm.
we're working on the kind of central crux of it, but it's also more layers beyond layers. And so it's kind of rippling out as we're holding space for that light to come through. And she's calling in helpers and friends on the highest timeline to help carry this forward. I just kind of see them spreading the word to all of the spirits in the area that are going to be touched by this ripple effect of what to do,
Yeah.
right? Go to the light. Your friends are there. They're waiting for you. It's safe. Even the ones that are, uh, what's the word? Pessimistic isn't the word, but like very egoic in the no, I don't have anybody that cares about me. No, there's no one there for me. No, I don't need to be there. It's like, well, hold on.
Oh, yeah.
Even if you don't think you have friends right now, you did at some point. There's someone that loves you.
Yeah.
Oh, I see the portal at the top where everyone's waiting for them.
Mm.
It's like far away. It looks far away from down from the surface, but just like the light at the end of the tunnel is exactly what it looks like. But I see like all these faces kind of peering in, like looking for their friends.
Mm. No, my camera's flickering, so that might be some confirmation.
You're safe, you're loved. Go into the light. Leave us. Leave us in peace.
Yeah.
Like I saw like someone with a gavel, like I
Yep.
wasn't trying to be like aggressive and hitting something. That was just my gavel really quick.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh, Making room for true justice. Oh, for all, for them too, right? I think part of the resistance is like that stubborn attitude of,
Yeah.
whatever it is, whatever stories in their head about it. But like, in order to achieve true justice, like, we have to make room. We have to like clear out those resistances to make room for the justice of all, not just the justice of mm, some, I guess. 'Cause there's
Hmm.
different levels of readiness. And so this feels like a preparation for all those stubborn aspects, the ones that don't want to let go, to finally release so that everyone, the all that is, can receive that fully.
Yeah. Yeah. I get the sense that they don't have the awareness of what effect they have. They're
Oh,
just selfish minded and I guess in survival mode.
yeah. I mean, we all meet people like this that are
Mhm.
stuck in their own ways, can't see things from a different perspective, super self-absorbed, so like they can't even fathom what their actions might how they might affect others on
Mhm.
any like even to like there's different levels to that, right? Like something very surface level that might affect a stranger is a little bit different than something that's like someone close to me that like just in terms of emotionality, like, and that's a whole spectrum of as to how much people care about those connections and what they're doing and how they're affecting other people. And some people are just so stuck in their own story, in their own mindset that none of that matters to them. And that's a really difficult piece to break apart because you can't affect their free will against their will.
Yeah.
And so she's saying that's what this is for. It's um we're opening up a multi-phase process where their multidimensionality has at some level accepted release. And so she's just kind of helping to walk them through those layers of themselves so they can make it to the light, to the portal. She's saying I can't harbor that level of consciousness anymore and still continue
Mhm.
to raise my frequency and take on more light. So this is actually a really brilliant and beautiful co-creation between Gaia and this, heavy, dense realm of spirit. Because there's a lot of density in that bucket. I mean, you look at the world around us and how culture itself responds to race and slavery, and it's like walking on eggshells just talking about it because people are so like affected, um
Mhm.
triggered.
Yep.
And so it's a deep fabric.
And that's what I'm sensing here is that, when you go through hardship, you can develop an ego around the hardship and say, well, I earned it. Like, it's like, I'm not going to use names, but somebody I know who got divorced and was an abused child, and they just hold on to that. And that's their bargaining chip.
So calling all stubborn resistance into this light portal
Mm-hmm.
through
Here you
all
go, guys.
time.
Lighten your burden.
Yeah, that's right. It's like they don't realize that just letting go of that will release them from it.
Yeah.
It's because we've made it too mental that I say we as a as a people do this all the time where, if we get stuck on something, but that's what the ego does, is it makes it mental so it can lock it up. It's like I'm seeing like gears when they seize and you can't like move them apart from each other. It's just like that when you get an idea paired with the ego, paired with the stubborn resistance, it's like perfect combination to keep it stuck and turn it into a pocket of trauma. Maybe this is how the trauma pockets are formed. And so it's like it creates that resistance so that it can fester. It can have a place and a container for it to fester to create that um it's like the forces that be that want us to remain in trauma, they feed off of the trauma that we create. And so it's an interplay. Like I'm not going to put it on, on something else. It's definitely also has to do with the person that is having the thought process and choosing to create their life in this way, but they're working together. And I think for the purpose of harvesting that dark energy. And so just allowing flexibility to come in as we release those pieces of density, ease and grace, love and light, highest good of every all. Because what happens is when we work through that trauma bubble, like if you look at it in a perspective of polarity, there's equal and opposites of each other. And so, as much density as they've created with this trauma bubble, there's also a level of abundance that they may have missed out on in the process of that, but the abundance is still there. It's just kind of hidden in the shadow. And so by releasing that pocket of trauma, it's also releasing this abundance to kind of come back home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that abundance can come back home to the soul and we can dissolve the resistance that doesn't belong here anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Through all time, space, dimension, and reality. All time, space, dimension, and reality. I was just doing this is a little bit reminiscent of the contract work I was just doing earlier in the week for Gaia because we called in all the bloodlines. It was like the bloodlines were ready to step forward and give up their contracts
Hmm.
that were keeping us on the lower levels of density. So they're like it's like they're all stepping forward to work together for the good of the whole.
Yeah.
So we saw like a dark kind of tower. And there was like it was stormy around the outside of it. And so I kind of created a wind tunnel and a vortex to pull the storm into the tunnel, because Gaia wanted to process that. And so as I brought the storm in and she began processing it, we saw another kind of tower form but it didn't start out as a tower, it was a pile of contracts. And so the pile of contracts for all of these bloodlines that were giving them up was like equaling the size of the other tower. But
Hmm.
what it turned into was like it's so it kind of was like two separate towers that as they both were cleansed and cleared, they kind of were able to come back into each other like they once were the same tower and something separated them.
Yeah.
So I think this is feels related, feels like part of that contract release and like rejuvenation is wherever there were these pockets of density, let's poke through a pillar of light to facilitate the release of that. The contracts have already been burned up, and Gaia's reclaimed them, and so that's why she's taking the authority to move beyond the level at which she's maybe been able to facilitate this herself. I think she feels comfortable and confident that now that she has the contracts, they're hers to do what she will with it.
Hmm.
Okay, she's saying that anchor is in place and complete, and so she's gonna keep shining light through that portal until it's done. But our piece of it is complete. Now that we've had the
Excellent.
so you'll have to report back and let us know how the home goes.
Sure will. Sure will. Yep. Yeah, you're getting some responses here because I can see my camera keeps flickering. It's not the light, it's the actual camera. And I've had a Gregorian chant playing before that a spirit shut off the data on the phone to make it stop. So
We don't want to hear that.
yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Well, I certainly did. Yeah.
It's so interesting to me how spirit can work through um the networks like that.
Yeah. Well, I
It's not,
didn't I didn't mention go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's not directly like I don't think that I think that there's some interconnected points. I'm not sure 100% how to describe this. because it's still kind of new to me and coming into my awareness, but it's like there's a bridge between us and the technology, and through our the network somehow the spirit is able to like bounce off of things in order to create the interference on the data transfer.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, I didn't mention it in class, but we sort of like started heading in this direction. I wanted to talk about King Solomon. You know, that wasn't his real name. His real name was Jedediah, which is where we get the word Jedi. And Dia is related to the word diode, and LED lights, light emitting diode, is where that comes from. And so his claim to fame was being able to command demons. And like you say, you don't necessarily like the word demon, but they are spirits, and that they're just lower energy spirits. And so yeah, he had the power to be able to command them. And so in other words, he was commanding electricity. And then we interviewed Nikola Tesla, who was similar, kind of, what do they call him? They call him man at a time, but there was another one. It's like King of Electricity or something to that effect. So yeah, that's sort of a way of dealing with it.
Yeah, and I mean to a certain degree we all have this power as well, in terms at least in terms of commanding our own electricity. Like we're all electromagnetic beings, and so that's an area that I've been exploring as well, in terms of, commanding my making commands in my field. Commanding your own energy is feels electrical. So as you're walking through, like, especially as you're walking like through and talking to these spirits already, just play with commands. I command you to leave. I command
Mm-hmm.
you this, I command that, and just see what happens.
Yeah.
Like
Well, now I did tell you about that response I got, where after I did that, I got the response that you don't know who you're dealing with. I own this land, you know. And I guess I should expect that because I've read the Bible and I understand how some of these things work. That well, it's like Alabar said that what Oroville, Oroville, he went to visit it and they spit him right out. The spirit just says, "Nope, we don't want you here."